So if someone want to start a salon business, let's say, what would you advise them to do? What are the first things that they have to do before they even open a business? Right? Because I've
Well,
heard a lot of interviews and they said,
right.
okay, you want to create a business, like have a customer before you even have a business. Like, so what kind of list
Yeah.
of the things they might need to do?
Well,
Yeah.
I think they have to know that running a business is not easy. They're going to have that work ethic, and they need to know
Hmm.
what they want to do. Do they want to be just a person like me where I'm a passive investor and I do the books and so forth, or do they actually want to be hands-on and
Hmm.
do that work? And I have no creativity. I'm not a hairstylist or anything like that. I couldn't do hair. I can only do my own hair, but not other people's
No, it
hair.
looks fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know what my strengths are, and I know that I do not want to devote a lot of time there as well. I want to have somebody that um, would work there. And so knowing that, you need to have a good team. You need to have someone that you can trust. I'm very fortunate that I have my sister, and I know that she's going to be in it because we have this equal partnership there, and we have, you know, both of us have skin in the game. We both have skin
Mm.
in the game. And so I know that she's committed there. I think for people who want to start a business, especially a hair salon, they need to know, like,
Yeah.
well, who are they going to hire? Are they going to have an operations manager that's going to run the business, or are they going to be the
Right.
operations manager? I mean,
Yeah.
most of my investing is passive because I want to spend more time with the family. I want to spend more time to travel. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to get into a hair salon business, you have to understand, like, what are your goals? Do you want to spend time traveling and have this free time? Well, then you're going to have a really good person that will run the business for you. You're going to
Yeah.
have good systems where, you can um, use those systems efficiently and so forth, and you can keep track of your purchases and sales and so forth.
Hmm. Hmm. So, and then with hair salons, I'm guessing it actually sounds like more efficiently ran than some of the multifamily business, for example, that we're in. Usually we see expenses of 50-50, but sounds like the expense ratio here is only 30% for hair salon.
Right,
I'm guessing when you first start a business, there's all these like picking out the right location, right?
right.
And then getting the LLC stuff all set it up. And then now you have a person come in doing the operation. What are the material that is involved in, just the bare minimal starting opening a salon? Yeah.
So when we first opened, location was key because I knew that in order for a hair salon to be successful, it needed to have that foot traffic, and it
Yeah.
needed to kind of like market itself without us having to do actual marketing. And so
Hmm.
I was very picky on location. There were many times when my sister, you know, she wanted to jump into a space, and I said, no, that's
Yeah.
not the location that we want. She has a
Yeah.
certain clientele. So our hair salon is in Capitol Hill. And so
Yeah.
a lot of our clients are men clients who really take care of themselves, and they come in
Yeah.
every 2 weeks religiously. And so I knew that we had to keep with that
Oh, that's
clientele.
smart.
And
Yeah.
and so because that's when she worked at my sister's hair salon, it was in Capitol Hill as well. So she had
Yeah.
this
Okay.
certain clientele already. And so I
Uh-huh.
knew that I wanted to target that demographic because even with the recession right now, there won't be that many women, I think, because you can probably go maybe 6 months to a year
Yeah,
without
I
a
go a year
haircut.
without cutting my hair,
Right, right, exactly, for women. And if they
Yeah.
dye their hair, it's a luxury item, right?
Yes.
Versus
Yeah. Very
men, they have
interesting.
to cut their hair maybe every 2 to 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
especially the clientele we have, they take care of themselves. And so they
Yeah.
always want to look really nice. And so we know that we're constantly having this consistent income stream coming in every two
Yeah.
to three weeks. And so I knew that we wanted to target Capitol Hill. And so I think it took us about 2 years before
Wow.
we found the location. Yeah, because we were really picky. I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that it had good foot traffic, and also, I wanted to make sure that it had a restroom inside. I didn't have to do
Yeah.
so much rehabbing with it as well. And I also, now that I think about it, our location is really good because it's not one of those older buildings where your landlord can potentially sell it to someone
Yeah.
else. It's one of the newer buildings with
Huh.
apartments on top and so forth. And so
Yeah.
we're able to get clients from people living in the building as well.
Mm.
And we know that
Mm.
for a long time, our
Yeah.
landlord will not sell that property to somebody else for development. It's a
Right.
newer building, and so they're most likely going to keep it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so it's
Yeah,
some smart like pre-planning involved and looking at the
right,
customer audience and so and I would assume the survey is kind of already done because your previous business with your other sister is pretty similar
right,
model,
right.
just to kind of take that, replicate and improve.
Hmm.
That's awesome. And then so what is looking forward? Like how do you guys run the business? Let's say in a hard time that's currently nobody is doing their haircuts and whatnot. I typically don't like to date my videos, but you know, it's a very
Hmm.
special time right now. There's some, you know, pandemics that's happening and nobody can go outside. So with
Right,
hair salon, that is like a direct hit with your business.
right.
There's obviously grants and stuff that you can apply. To your point, you have reservation, but is there any other ways that for you to kind of combat the scenario? Obviously, it's nobody ever had foresee this.
Yeah,
Like, how do you kind of
yeah.
combat this?
And
Yeah.
even before the governor gave the stay at home order, I was already contemplating closing the salon down
Mm,
just because it was
yeah.
a public health issue. And I
Right.
knew that we had to do this to flatten the
And you work
curve.
in public health.
And
Yeah.
I
So
work
you
in public
obviously,
health. So
yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
I think at this point, for me, it's not about the money anymore. It's really about
Yeah.
saving lives for people, and it's the right thing to do. And
Yeah.
so, and I had already planned for worst case scenarios already. So I was in a position where I could close up shop because
Yeah.
I had reserves. I I have savings and stuff like that, so I could
Yeah.
ride this out. Um,
Yeah.
and
What's the
so
worst case scenario for you when you plan it for that? Like, is it 6 day, 6 year, 6 month reserve, or like, what does it look
So I
like? Yeah.
typically try to plan for 6 to 8 months reserves,
Hmm.
and that's just being liquid, just having money for savings and all that. But then I also
Yeah.
prepare myself financially with my equity lines, my HELOCs,
Uh-huh.
business. I have business lines as well, business credit cards and all that. I haven't been
Yeah.
able. I haven't been needing to dip into any of that, but it's good to just have in case this
Yeah.
thing does run longer for a year. But right
Gotcha.
now, I usually try to plan for 6 to 8 months and then have
Mm.
all these other backup options in case something happens where we need to dip into it. And then all these, you said like these loan programs and all that,
Mm.
educating yourself so that you know what's out there and what your options are if you were to need it as well. So,
Yeah. So for people who's starting a business, what would you recommend them to first research into for like small business loan? What you're saying, like having the line of credit lay around for your business. Because when you need it, you couldn't
right.
actually get it. We all know that. And then you kind of have to set this up before you actually needed it. Yeah.
Right. I would tell them to network with different business bankers and so forth,
Hmm.
where they have idea of what kind of loan programs are out there in the banks and
Mm.
so forth. And so when you need
Huh.
it, you can set up. I have a good relationship with U.S. Bank. They help me with my commercial loans, but they also help me with my business banking as well. So just being
Mm.
connected with them, and they can give you different options of what's available for you. And when I started, I always make sure that I open up a business checking, savings
Hmm.
account, and
Hmm.
a business credit card, and making sure that I I have a good credit line for that in case if I do need to dip into it. We
Hmm.
haven't been needing to dip into it, but it's nice to know that that is available if we do need to use it down the
Gotcha.
road.
So advice over here would be like, hey, if you start a small business, it may be good to kind of go out there, get a credit
Right,
card, and
right,
get a line of credit, talk with people, having the loans over there. You may not necessarily need to use it, but at time
right,
when it's hard, you may want to pull out all that credit, pay the
right.
interest, and then just having cash sitting around for that.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's awesome. That's great advice. Now, switching gear a little bit, are obviously the other part is real estate investing.
Hmm.
You started with the duplex. Now coming back Was it the duplex or a housing that the
It was
first
a
house you ever bought?
the
Yeah.
first house I bought was my parents' house, which was a
Oh
single
yeah, that's
family
right.
rental.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a single family rental, and then I think over the years, I was learning as I was going. I was about 25 years old at the time,
Yeah.
and so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I would upgrade my house and then
Yeah.
keep that house as a rental. And
Yeah.
so I was essentially just kind of growing my portfolio there with rentals, and then
And you were
as
living
I
in there when you're updating them.
right, so kind of
Okay.
like house
So
hacking a little
yeah.
bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
but
I
it's
didn't
kind of
really
like a
know
different
what
way.
right. I didn't know
Yeah.
what that term was at the time. And then I think when the recession hit, it made me realize like I need to kind of switch gears and only think about cash flow, because my
Mm,
single family rentals were cash flowing, but it wasn't cash flowing enough. I think like in terms of having a big margin. And so
mm-hmm,
it probably cash flowed maybe like 200, 250 a door or so.
mm-hmm.
And then so I started looking into a multifamily. And so that's where I kind of shift gears and went into multifamily. And I realized that, with multifamily, you're not stuck to if your tenant can't pay the rent, you're not
Mm.
100% vacant. There's only a portion of it that you're vacant. So let's say
Yeah.
for my building, I have 11 units. And because of this COVID situation, I
Mm-hmm.
believe 3 of them haven't paid yet.
Yeah.
I've been able to collect the other 8, but even with that, I'm still able to cash flow. And
Yeah.
so I realized that, multifamily is where I wanted to go, and start thinking about cash flow and
Mm-hmm.
not really, I mean, it's nice to have that appreciation as well, but given a financial crisis like this, it really doesn't matter if the prices go down on it, because you're still cash flowing. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
what is able to kind of keep us being able to succeed during this recession
Yeah.
because of that cash flow.
Yeah. And then there's obviously buffer that you also apply to that business where the cash flow
Right,
has to service the loan, but with a huge,
right,
like a kind of margin with the vacancies that you kind of plan for. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
That's
And then a
awesome.
lot of the thing with me investing in real estate as well is just the tax benefits of it,
Yeah.
getting depreciation. And we were able to do a cost seg last year and this year, which helped
Yeah.
us. And I think I saved maybe 22 grand in taxes, which I think of it as that's additional income that
Yeah.
we're cash flowing every month. That's like an additional 2 grand every month. And
Yeah.
so all those benefits with costs with depreciation, and also making sure that
Mhm.
it cash flows, and the asset is also appreciating value, it just made sense to invest in real estate.
Yeah. So now kind of walk us back a little bit. You were buying these houses. Were your parents are paying your rent on your first rental?
Were they paying me rent?
Yeah, because now
they
you bought their house. They moved out
they
and then
moved
you
out.
oh okay. And
They
then you
moved
put a
out.
new tenant in there.
Yes,
Or were
and so
you
I
living
lived
there?
in there. I lived in
Okay.
there, and then we upgraded, bought another house, and then
Yeah.
rented that house out.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So
Hmm.
you guys were living in there. You upgraded while you were in there.
Right.
How was the life like when you were living there with all the upgrades? uh,
Yeah,
were you?
I mean, it was busy. I remember going to Home Depot and so forth. And I did minor stuff, I just kind of did paint and all of that. I wasn't
Yeah.
really thinking about the high end, how flips were,
Yeah.
because I knew that eventually I would move out and I would just rent this out. So I
Yeah. You're
didn't
not
put
doing the
too much.
flipping. Yeah.
Right, right. I
Exactly.
didn't put too much money into it, but I made sure that it was nice enough where I can get additional rents for it, and
Mm-hmm.
tenants would move into it. So we did basic
Gotcha.
things like painting, carpet, new
Mm-hmm.
countertops, very cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then so
Mhm.
you moved out, you did a couple more accumulation of that.
Mhm.
How, because one thing about it living around Seattle area is like the pricing of the housing is very much.
Right.
I kind of went through the whole same thing before, but at like house number 3 or 4, you start running out of capital. Like, how were you able to kind of creatively create more money or saving more money potentially, and then start buying more and more, purchase more properties?
Yeah, and I think, I kind of ran into it by accident too, because as I was buying these homes, it was during the recession time. So I was
Yeah.
getting them for a very cheap price. One of the
Hmm.
last home I sold, I bought it for 380 and was able to sell it
Hmm.
for 750. So I was
Yeah.
able to make all this money because of the market going up as well, and just
Gotcha. Okay.
buying it, holding it, and waiting for the market to go up. And
Hmm.
so I was able to take that capital. I got equity lines and so forth to
Hmm.
purchase different properties as well. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
And do you still work right now?
I do, I do. So
Okay.
I'm, full time still.
Mm.
I managed to squeeze everything in, and I think it's all about balance.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that, I should be devoting more time to real estate and so forth, but
Hmm.
I make time for it. And for me, my mindset is, everything that I do every day, as long as I'm taking action, it's helping me get to my goal.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
I like I said, I'm very passionate of what I do right now. I
Yeah.
think if I was in a different situation where I didn't like my career, I'm in a very high position in my company as well. So it's harder to leave a high paying job where you
Yeah.
kind of have. I'm more into the leadership skills
Hmm.
and being a leader as well. And so
Yeah.
I thrive on that. I love being successful in all aspects, with either it being with my current W-2 job as a leader, or being successful as a business owner.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thrive on that, and I love it, and I feel that you can make it work if you're passionate about it. You
Yeah.
can make it work.
Yeah. And then you have how many kids? Like two kids or
I have
three
two
kids?
daughters. I have
Two.
two
Yeah.
daughters. Yeah,
Yeah.
9 and 12, and so
How do you
I'm
balance
still.
it out?
Yeah, I'm doing this work from home. I'm like, for because of this pandemic crisis, I'm doing
Yeah.
work from home, and I'm also doing homeschooling
Oh my God.
as well. So we're doing all this like curriculums and stuff like that, and then balancing that work life balance. I try to make a goal for myself. So
Mhm.
for me, I feel that it's really quality, not quantity. Because I've seen
Yeah.
some moms where they spend time with their kids, but they don't have that quality time with them as well. So
Yeah.
every time we have together, it's always precious, and it's quality based. I always make a kind of blueprint, a
Hmm.
goal of what I want. So every year I put a goal of chaperoning at least 2 field trips,
Yeah.
going to every golf lesson or concert. Like, those are certain things that I know that I have to meet. Like, those are the
Yeah.
minimum requirements, and
Yeah.
anything else beyond that is above and beyond. So I think I've put enough time in there to go and say that there's
Hmm.
enough. And I put a goal for real estate as well. I say that I want to get you know X number of properties or X number of doors in this year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I plan it on a quarterly, monthly basis. So I say
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing this month, and this quarter, this is my goal for this quarter. And so I
Right.
think when you have those all outlined and planned out, you know that you hit those milestones.
Hmm.
And so that's okay. It's okay that you don't devote 100% of your time in real estate, as long as you hit those milestones. I think
Right.
those are big
Right. Like a
accomplishments.
baby steps. Yeah. But
Right,
you don't
right,
have
because
to like really shoot for the moon, but like
right,
there are the realistic goals, and once you hit them, it's like a pat on the back.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I could say I want to focus 100% of my time on real estate, but then I could be doing things and not having that, hitting that milestone, which would not be productive at all. So as long as I
Yeah.
see it out, I write it out and make sure that I hit my milestones, I'm okay with it. And anything above that is just great, just extra
That's
icing on the cake.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And so at the and can you share with us like kind of like your saving rate? Like what are you doing? Because coming up with like a very frugality mindset. Once you have kids, the expenses kind of goes out of control a little bit. But
Yeah.
what are some like the tools that you use to kind of keep? Because you strike to me as a person who's very good with financial. understanding what your incoming outgoing is in every aspect of life pretty much. So what are the tools that you suggest our viewer to kind of look into, use as kind of like their technology to help them balance the books and
Yeah.
know where they're going?
Yeah, so I think I kind of have a, outdated tool, but I use Excel a lot, and I just write everything down. I write
Uh,
down each month. I budget what things need to go. So I categorize it in different ways, and one is home stuff. So like
yeah,
basic things like food, mortgage, electricity, those kind of things. Like those are the I prioritize that those are the first things where we pay for that. And then there's another category for like savings and so forth.
mm-hmm,
And then
mm-hmm.
there's another category for just extra things, extra
Yeah,
things like if we want to travel, or if we want to um, do some extra splurging or something like that.
yeah,
So
yeah, like the
making sure that
fancy
right,
bags.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't do that often. So my goal with fancy bags is really weird, but I also tell myself that unless I buy a house, I cannot buy a fancy bag.
Right.
So I feel like so every time I purchase a property, then I can go splurge. Versus
Yeah,
people, there's some people where they just splurge and they're like, oh, I can't buy a property because I just bought this. For me, it's
yeah,
kind of the opposite. It's kind of like my reward. So I still buy
yeah,
things like that, but it's more of a reward for me, and it kind of incentivizes me to go buy another property so I can get another
right.
purse and so forth. So, but
Yeah,
at that time, I don't feel as guilty anymore. I don't feel as guilty buying that purse because I already spent 80 grand or 100 grand on a property. And so
yeah,
another grand on something else is okay. But
yeah.
I think you do have to reward yourself though. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
very
live
important.
right. My thing is you kind of got to balance everything as long as you're not overdoing it on one thing. Everything is in moderation, and
Yeah,
you have to reward yourself to kind of keep you going and keep you motivated to invest
yeah.
more.
So do you sleep? How was your typical day like? I guess that was a kind of like a very
Yeah.
interesting aspect.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, I sleep. I wake up every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m.
Wow.
I'm an early bird riser, and I go into the office. I do what I need to do. My job is very flexible too,
Right.
and it's very project based.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm able to multitask a lot and do
Mm,
what I need to do. I also have employees, so
mm.
I have four
You
employees that
supervise
I
it. Yeah.
oversee. I supervise as well, and so my work is a priority. And then it's shuttling the kids back and forth. I go home, and every weeknight it's like you get dinner on the table. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
cook, so I always love to cook. I get dinner on the table, and then we do homework. I It's very structured. My time is
Mm.
very structured, and
Yeah.
we have extracurricular activities as well. I plan things for real estate, so I know that I have more time on Fridays and so forth. So I plan to do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my calls and my follow-ups and all of that on Fridays.
Mm.
I also plan a portion of the day where I'm doing certain things for real estate as well. And it all
Mm-hmm.
depends sometimes too of like what you have going on. Maybe there's
Yeah.
a week where I don't have much, but then I'm taking care of a lot of my property management stuff, or another week
Yeah.
where there's like 2 or 3 new deals that came up and I need to analyze for it. So
Mm.
it's all very sporadic, but I always make sure that I make time. I prioritize what's important. The kids and family is the most important thing. So making sure that all of that is taken care of
Mm-hmm.
is number one. And then, the business, I have a routine for the business as well. My sister does the day-to-day operations, but every week I kind of go back and look into the books and consolidate everything
Mm-hmm.
and kind of plan everything out for the business as
Gotcha.
well.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So
Mhm.
you kind of structure and proportion them out. Very,
Right. And
very
I think
organized.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's the key, like to running a successful business. You have to be organized so that you can have that
Mm-hmm.
discipline. Because if you kind of let it go for whatever, you don't have that structure and that organization. So you
Yeah.
need to have that to make sure that you're getting things done and
Yeah.
executing. Mhm.
Definitely. That's awesome. So last question we have here for our viewer is, what are you doing to kind of educate your kids? So to install a good money habits for them
Yes.
right now. Yeah.
So I'm a believer that they need to work for their money.
Mhm.
They need to understand that money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard for your money, and you need to save your money. So I have two girls, and both of them have different styles. One
Mhm.
is very frugal, and she loves real estate. She's like, she knows more about real estate than me, I think. So she's
Yeah.
like reading all the books. She wants to um, start buying her first house when she's 13, and she's 12 right now, but
Yeah.
she wants that. And so she's like, every penny she's saving up for it. And so I think exactly, I'm
Yeah.
like so proud of her. And I think I instilled that with her because I give her an allowance. So she works for me. She does
Hmm.
some business stuff for me, and she takes care of some household stuff, but she gets an allowance, and she knows that a portion of it she can keep
Hmm.
for herself, and but
Hmm.
the majority of it she has to save away. And
Uh-huh.
so and also, we get money during the year. We get leasing money, red envelopes, and
Yeah.
Christmas money, and birthday money, those kind of things. And so they know all of that money gets saved up for college, for investments, things like that. It goes to their savings. The only money that they
Yeah.
can spend is birthday money that they get from me, but all the rest from relatives and all that goes into savings. So they
Yeah.
learn about saving money up at a very young age.
Yeah.
I also try to get them exposed to investing as well. So every time we talk about um, our day, I talk to them about real estate. I try to give them a tip about real estate. They're
Yeah.
learning about cost segregation. They're
Mm.
learning about BC class properties, everything.
Yeah.
So I try to teach that, because when I was a kid, I didn't have that. Our school
Yeah.
system doesn't have that, and so we need to talk to them about being financially responsible and saving
Hmm.
money, and how to invest, and how to make your money grow. Right now, because the stock market was taking a dip, we're getting into stocks now too. I mean,
Hmm.
that's another
Yeah.
avenue of investing, where I tell them, buy low, sell high. That's the same thing
Yeah.
that you would do in real estate as well. So
Right.
every time we get an opportunity to give them those little golden nuggets, I try
Hmm.
to feed it to them, and hoping that it would instill good financial habits for them in the future.
Yeah. So be open about talking about the money is like
Right.
kind of like really what there is. What happened to your other girl? If one of them is really into, you haven't really talked about your other
Yeah.
girl.
So the other
Yeah.
one, she's a spender. She likes to spend money. And so we started kind of showing her what the consequences are. And
Yeah.
so she wants to buy things. I will never pay for it fully. I say, if you want to buy
Yeah.
it, you need to pay for half of it.
Yeah.
So lately, she's been wanting to buy things, and so she's been spending her money. So every time she gets her allowance, she gets $10 a week. So every time she gets it, she wants to buy something at Amazon. And
Yeah.
so because it's her allowance, we let her spend a portion of it. But then the other day, she was comparing it with her sister, and she realized that her sister had so much money and she
Yeah.
didn't have as much money.
Yeah.
So now it's a learning moment for her, and
Yeah.
she's starting to save up more, not buying everything as well. So
Yeah.
um, you know so every time when she wants something, I say, do you want it or do you need it? And
Yeah.
then if she realizes that it's just something I want, I don't really need it, then she just passes on it now. So she's getting to know it better now, and hopefully
Yeah.
she'll be
And is
frugal
she
as
also
her
the
sister.
younger, like a
She's
little
a
younger,
younger
the younger
one.
one? So it takes a little bit time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's
Right,
great.
right.
Yeah.
She just sees things, but then now she's seeing that her sister makes more money than her, and her sister has all
Yeah.
this money
The
saved up, and
competition.
her
Yeah.
sister, right. So there's
Yeah.
competition now, and she's like, why am I not getting it? So she's understanding that she's spending it so fast, and she needs to slow down on spending.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Francis, for being on our show today and let us learn about all about opening a salon and all that sort of stuff, which we don't
Yeah.
really get, on our interview series. So really glad that you can join us, and hopefully our viewer learned a little bit about how to open a new business as well over here with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I had a great time talking about it. I think that you have to be safe and be conservative, have reserves ready, and take this opportunity to optimize what you have as well. I mean, this is a great opportunity where you have more time. You can learn about
mm,
different skill sets. You can learn if you want to open up a business. You can do the research for it, and you know as long as you're taking action every day, I think you will meet your goals. And don't let fear stop you. If I
yeah.
didn't take risks, I wouldn't be where I was at right now. So I think as long as you're taking calculated risks, you're doing the research, you're making sure the deal pencils out, or making sure that you're starting a good sound business, then everything
Hmm.
will come together. And I
That's
had a great
awesome.
time. Thank you for having me.